I'm Clay Archer, CEO DPC Technology, and today's episode 2. If you haven't seen episode 1, it's in the link in the description. We're going to set up the Hikvision NVR, connect the cameras, and give our first impressions of the Hikvision system. I want to remind everybody that we're a managed service provider, and we install camera systems for clients. Our viewpoint may be different than hobbyists or somebody setting up home systems. Also, our average client is using less than 50 cameras. So we're not doing large enterprise setups either. And with that in mind, let's not waste any time and let's jump right into the setup.
All right, we're gonna fire up the unit here. Maybe takes a minute to boot up. I've got it booting up straight into the wizard now. Okay, so it's booted up. You can see that it has a really annoying alarm saying that I haven't set up the hard drive yet. So I've got it setting up, I've turned it on once before, but I've got it going right into the wizard. Let me go ahead and hit apply here. And I'm gonna keep the wizard coming up, keep the password, the admin password the same. I'll go into a little bit about my problems with setting that up, but incorrect. Admin password, oh, I got set it in to go in here the first time. Set the date and the time. I'm in the Eastern time zone here in the United States. I'm gonna go ahead and just accept DHCP there. I also gone through this once before and I let the software assign the IP addresses to the cameras. Again, that annoying beep is gonna continue until I partition the hard drive in this unit. So I'm gonna skip the HIC connect for now. I'm gonna just go ahead and leave that all the same. I'll go ahead and reset that from the system remotely here from my computer. I'm gonna go ahead and click on this and I'm gonna initialize this drive to get rid of this horrible alarm. Yes, we okay with that. I will also say that I bought this off of Amazon with a 2 terabyte drive already installed, so I did not have to go through an install process on this. Okay, so as soon as that initializes, the annoying alarm goes off, as you see. Let me go ahead and go next on enabling H.265. And I'm gonna go yes on continuous and yes on all day motion, just for fun. I'll probably go back and reset up all these settings here. Again, this is my first time ever doing one. That's it for getting it set up. You know, it was a little bit of pain in the butt. I tried to do it headless and I kind of gave up and I came back and I did it with a monitor just because it seemed like that was the quickest and easiest way to do it. All right, one last little thing I realized once I went back into the menu is that it will set up a pattern for you to try. And I think this pattern is reusable for your password, which is pretty cool. In here, you can get in the main menu. Again, I probably won't do most of this here. I'm probably gonna go into the web-based portal from my PC in my office. So, but anyways, that pattern password is kind of an interesting feature here, which will let you get into the menu. So if I exit in here and go back in the menu, I think I don't have to give my master password again because I've already put that shape in. So anyways, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the other room now.
All right, so here we are. I'm in the IVMS 4200 software. Just real quickly before we dive in, I will tell you that I've had quite a little bit of an issue with just getting going on this video. It's been a couple weeks since we did the unboxing video. Typically, I'll fire the cameras up. I'll play with them for a few days, maybe do a nighttime, do a daytime shoot, and then we'll go outside and do a daytime and a nighttime shoot. And that typically takes me about a week to do. And by that time, I've kind of gone deeply into the software, found out, you know, all the warts and found out all the cool features that we want to go through, get my thoughts together, and then we'll do the video the following week. Well, it's been 2 weeks since we did the unboxing video, and I will tell you this has been one of the more difficult videos that I've shot in my entire history on YouTube. The learning curve coming from Unifi Protect is really steep. There's a bunch of things about the NVR and the software that were hard for me to get over. Every time I get to one of those nights where I'm shooting something throw me a curveball. I logged into the web interface and certain things just didn't work. So, you know, then I was like, okay, well, I'll throw in the IVMS software and thought, hey, maybe I can just kind of work through this and learn as I go. But every last thing stopped me from being able to do that. So I took an extra week, watched a bunch of YouTube videos, kind of went through the system and still had, you know, a really steep learning curve. I really wasn't super happy about installing the client version of the IVMS on my hardware. And so I did that. There were a ton of permissions I had to give the software, which were okay. I'm just, you know, it's just clunky and I hate to install a bunch of services on my PC just to get things to work. A lot of user account control stuff where you're giving it rights to do things even at startup. Now, obviously I'm new to IVMS and I probably could have gotten away with not installing as many services, and I may go back through in add remove programs and start trying to take some of the features away from IVMS. That being said, the software is clunky. You know, my machine here has 16 gigs of RAM. It's a pretty strong little workstation. It's a Precision Dell workstation. It's a nice computer, and it's been struggling with it. Again, my reference is, you know, I've got 25 years in tech. I learn new technologies all the time. This is a more cryptic system than you would expect. And two kind of observations that I have based off of just my experiences. One, from my perspective, we're an IT company here. I've got 10 or 15 techs here that are gonna go out and deploy these out in the field, training 10, 15 people on how to use the system. There's not a lot of resources. Now, YouTube is wonderful, but you know, just as a protocol or a documentation issue for training, I think that this would be a much harder system for me to deploy to a project team and say, hey, you guys need to know this inside and out. My secondary concern is that we are deploying this to clients, and my clients typically do not use many of the features of their systems until, you know, it's 6 months in and they want to see when somebody came in the front door or when something went missing. And I don't think this is a system that you could have an uneducated end user use and be able to just jump in after maybe months of no exposure and right click on something and be able just to kind of go through stuff. I'll point that out as we go through this. In this series of videos, obviously I'm gonna use the Hikvision NVR software here, and then I'm gonna go into the Synology, and then I'm gonna go into the Blue Iris, and I'm gonna compare all of those to Unifi. This video is just gonna be a basic overview of the Hikvision, my immediate first impressions of what the cameras look like. I by no means mean this as a deep dive into Hikvision. So without going much further in that, I'm gonna jump into the software and kind of show you how we use the software over the last couple of weeks and our first impressions of the cameras. So this is the main dashboard of the IMS software. I think that this is really laid out relatively well. You can see just like main view and remote playback, reports. This is pretty self-explanatory, and I think that if you just came in here and are gonna use this like this, you would be pretty happy with the layout of this main screen. Across the top here, I have these tabs. These are tabs that I have opened up from these different buttons that I'm gonna go over in this video. These are kind of the main tabs that I've used as we've gone through the system. I'm gonna start and go from right to left here. This maintenance and management tab was kind of the first one you go into, kind of to get into the NVR. You can do some of your setup here. You know, one of the things that I think is kind of was hardest to get my head around was kind of the topography of the network here. Basically, I think everything goes through the NVR. The NVR acts like a router, and then beyond the NVR are the cameras. Sometimes you can get to some of the features of the cameras through this IMS software. Some of the times you have to actually hit the cameras themselves through their IP address and translate that through the NVR, which is acting like a router. The other night I was trying to turn on and turn off the IR emitters, and that was something that I needed to go into the camera itself and hit them. Now in Unifi, you have that same kind of setup where sometimes you do have to go into the camera maybe to turn off a microphone or something, but most of that is available through the software, and I found it kind of difficult to get my head around the way these things set up. One other thing here is there's multiple ways to get into things, and so what I assumed was the right way sometimes was kind of a shortcut way and not necessarily the right way. Like I could go into the cameras here and set up the cameras individually, and I can edit some stuff on these cameras here. But you know, at the end of the day, sometimes you get in it one way and you can do certain things, and you go in another way, you can do other things. And that was a little cumbersome for me. But anyways, this main screen here, you can set up some of your event configuration, your storage schedule, some backups, some system configuration, system logs, that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna dive too deep into it. There's a ton of videos on YouTube about how to set up this software. But this is the main spot you would use to manage your devices. The main screen that you're gonna see is called the main view here, obviously. And it does basically what you would assume that it does. You can store a bunch of different custom views. All your cameras are gonna show up here down below. NVR is gonna show up there. If you had multiple NVRs, you could join them over here, and you can set these up in groups in a bunch of different ways. Basically, you just drag your cameras over onto the screen, and you set up your views, and you can save those views. Pretty self-explanatory, nothing really all that cumbersome to this. But let's go over my first impression of these cameras. Now, obviously these cameras are in the $100 to $200 range. I've got two 8-megapixel cameras here, and I've got a 4-megapixel camera. Again, as I do on all the Ubiquiti cameras, I leave them just as they are out of camera. You can tell really quickly that the top two are a little bit hot. The bottom one seems to have a more neutral appearance to it. One of the things I always mention on the Ubiquiti cameras, hey Phil, is the wide dynamic range. The G4 cameras on Ubiquiti tend to see a better dynamic range. I will tell you that the dynamic range on these cameras do not look to be super high. And one of the ways that I always take a look at that is in the lights up in the ceiling. In all three of these cameras, you really can't see any of the actual fixture itself. It's just a white light. Another way you can tell the dynamic range is out in the front here past this glass is actually exterior of the building and the light out there. In the lower left, you can see that you can kind of see out the building there. And in the upper two, it is much more blown out. But where I will tell you the cameras are doing well is in 8 megapixels. So if I zoom in here, I can see this 20/20 line pretty well. I think that's pretty similar to what you saw out of the Ubiquiti G4 Pro. Maybe a little less there, but obviously this is a wide angle lens here, whereas the G4 Pro is a bullet, in which actually has zoom. And we'll get into the comparison a little bit more in the next video. Where these are falling short is the wide dynamic range. I'm getting a little bit more blown out in the highs and probably a little bit less detail in the darks. All three of the cameras are doing pretty well with the width. You can see they're all pretty similar. They're not mounted exactly in the same spot, but they are pretty comparable on how wide you're getting. You can see you're getting all the way to the left side of the stack of boxes, and we're getting the first monitor in this top left one. We're getting a little bit further. We can all see Natina's window on the bottom, just a little less of that monitor because we're going a little bit further to the left. So I would on all three of these cameras, I would say, hey, they look relatively good. I'm not complaining about any of these images. And the 4K versus 8K, if I go in here and I zoom in, you can definitely see when we do this that you're falling off way before that 20/20 line. And there's a lot less detail in there. One other thing about these cameras in particular that I noticed, and I don't know, I haven't gotten too deep into it, is if there's any lens distortion correction. If somebody were to walk over on the very, very far left side of the image, things get compressed a little bit, so people look a little strange. There is a little bit of that. Again, I typically turn that off in the Ubiquiti cameras because I'd rather see further than have the correction for that lens distortion turned on and maybe a little bit of a crop. So I really can't complain about anything here. I think these are nice, solid cameras for the price. They're not definitely anything that is gonna make you go, oh my gosh, that's the best camera ever. When I put a G4 Pro on for the first time, you go, wow, that's amazing. But of course, that's a $450 camera, and you should feel that way. Real quickly, if I go back into the timeline here, this is one of the areas where I feel like this is falling way short of Ubiquiti's offering there. Their time-lapse feature is really super smooth. This is not super smooth. So basically, I don't have events turned on here yet, and I will do events in the next video. If you don't have an on motion event here, finding the exact time something happened without this movement being really smooth and me being able to see in between here makes me have to watch a bunch of video, which is a little bit disappointing. I thought that would be a little bit smoother. The features here, being able to do that really quickly in this mode, are nice. It isn't anything that's amazing or, you basically have, you could go down single frame and you can go forward and backwards and play it backwards, all that stuff. And if you want to go back to live view, just click on live view. Right clicking there does get me pretty much most of the stuff that I wanted to see here. That's going to bring us to the next tab here. If I go to remote playback, this is where you can go back and look at multiple cameras at the same time. Let me go ahead and move forward here in the timeline where there's data for everybody. And I can drag multiple cameras onto the timeline and move them forward and backwards so that they're all at the same time, or they can move them independently of each other. Pretty cool stuff. Here you can also see the night view of the cameras last night. Yeah, as far as the cameras go, all three, I do have to report that all three of their IR emitters are on here, so you're getting a little bit of overblown IR. And that was one of the issues I was having. It's turning off individual IR emitters made me go into the cameras themselves. Every time I try and do something small, like just turn off IR emitters, it takes me watching a YouTube video or two and experimenting a little bit. It's really a long, kind of drawn out, arduous process, so it's something that should be relatively easy to do. But you can see here, the night image here out of the 2CD-2085G1, 8 megapixel camera. Not really super impressed by this image. I mean, obviously if somebody came in the room, I would be able to see what's going on there. It is overblown because all 3 IR emitters are going here at once. You can see the shadow of the one next to it, but I'm not really blown away by the image here. It's okay, it's decent. You know, seems all right, seems sharp enough, but you know, if I compared that to, you know, and I will in the next video, I compared that to Ubiquity's offerings, I think it's probably a little subpar. Not bad. I mean, you know, this one is the best of all of them. This is the 2CD-2385FWD 8 megapixel camera. Pretty good. Now, in all fairness, this is blown out because I've got 3 IR emitters going on at once. But I can really see what's going on in the room. Even way off in the peripheral of this, it looks good. So I would be pretty happy with that result. The one that I'm actually not all that happy with, surprise, surprise, it's another dome camera. The dome, it seems to suffer from the same IR cast that I have on the Ubiquity cameras. This dome has never been off, you know, and like the Ubiquities where you can move the dome on and off, this one's kind of more fixed. There are a ton of emitters inside of this dome, but I'm getting this cast. At the end of the day, if somebody walked in this room, would I be able to see them and probably identify them? Yes, but I'm not really blown away by that image. Either of the upper images I think are subpar. But you know, back to this software, again, I don't have a bunch of events. I don't have any events turned on, but if I did, I could see all of these different, there would be little spikes down here where I could go to motion events or, you know, a face detection event or a vehicle detection event. And we'll do that in the next video. But it is nice to be able to scrub the timeline and see all cameras in the same timelines. That way, if you know, this one was the front hall and this one was the back door and this one was the front door, you could see somebody and where they kind of, where the entire facility was at a certain time, and then kind of move forward and backwards to see somebody walking from one area to another. So I do see some power here. I'm just not as big a fan of how you scrub through the timeline here. I do think that they could have done this in a more powerful way. And there's more in here. You can kind of go through into different types of playbacks, event playbacks. You can search events in time, and you know, kind of go this day to that day. There's a bunch you can do here. The power of this is pretty high. It also means that it's a little bit more complex and a little bit more cryptic to find everything here. I'm gonna go to data retrieval. This is another one. You know, I haven't played much with this because I haven't set up on the events, but you can see, you know, the facial recognition, the human recognition, behavioral analysis. You can kind of see where things are kind of coming and going and when things are out of like a normal state. Vehicle retrieval, so you'll be able to see, you know, everybody's license plates for over a time frame. People frequency, the frequency of person appears, rarely appeared person. These are all really interesting features here. I will test these out you know, against smart detections in the next video as we add some of these detections to the cameras. Another feature, you know, I probably won't really spend much time in here, but you can see the grander features of this software is the ability to monitor dozens and dozens of cameras and then bring back some reporting based off of a lot of data. So you can see they have people counting, queue management, where you can see where people are in a line or waiting, how long they've been waiting, heat maps to see where people are in a room or in an area, surface temperatures, real-time density and people counting in temperature maps to see where kind of things are. Then those are really neat. You know, these are things I probably would never use personally. You know, typically our employments are to professionals, maybe a warehouse, but we're not typically putting out hundreds and hundreds of cameras at once. And these features would be great if you had somebody sitting behind, you know, a security counter, like a security guard or something that was really trying to manage a ton of areas and kind of decide where to put assets. Some of these features would definitely help in these reportings, would definitely help in those kind of things. A little bit beyond the scope of kind of what I'm trying to do here. And then you have your event center, and where I can see this is going to be our comparable to our smart detections in Unifi. As I set these up, we will do a comparison of this event center versus the smart detection center and the Protect software, and see how those will play off against each other. As I said before, I do have some opinions about the software and its complexity, but I'm gonna save most of those for the comparison video. At this point, I'm gonna go back to the studio. We're gonna kind of wrap up this video and we'll tell you what's coming ahead in the next videos. My first impression is this is not a great consumer-facing system. The learning curve is much steeper than it needs to be, but you can see the power and the scalability of the system as you dive deeper into its features. I have to say that this has been the hardest review that I've done to this point. The lack of basic instructions and the complexity of what should be simple procedures, like adding cameras to the web interface or turning off IR emitters, are cryptic, and they make you feel like either you're an idiot or something's broken. And that's not a position I ever want to put a client or an employee in. Other issues like user account control rights and a bunch of services running, to general system slowness are major drawbacks. We had to use an HDMI display out to a capture card on a laptop to even get footage of the IVMS software that wasn't jittery or unusable. Let me frame this up by saying I'm a complete novice when it comes to Hikvision. I would love your comments and feedback below to help guide me through the next comparison videos. I want to thank everybody on the Reddit and Facebook forums for their questions and guidance. I also want to thank all the YouTube creators out there that helped me get as far as I have over the past few weeks. In the next video, we are going to put the Unifi Protect System head-to-head against the Hikvision and see who comes out on top. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.